We're live.
Oh, we're live. There it is. Yeah.
Who all's in the house already? A lot of folks in here. Dean Stevenson was here crazy early. Twisted Mopar Garage says stand by for action. I don't know how much action we're going to muster, but stand by for whatever. We've got Danny Boyd, unsafe at any altitude. That's what we strive for. There's the Auto Salvage Outlaws. Says hit the like button when you come in. Right on. Tony's Hot Rod Garage is here. We've got NSB Custom Cars coming from sunny New Smyrna Beach, Florida. We've got Dust Devil Garage. We've got Cope is here. He said he'll be watching from the YouTube cracks and crevices. I got myself. Let's see here. Pure Pontiac Garage is here. Wendy English is watching from work. Well, don't get in trouble, Wendy. We won't rat on you if you do. Colleen Tebow is here. Spencer's Drink Reviews and Chugs. Buff Del Campo Unfinished Project says Potato. Mopars, Mustangs, and Minivans and Thumper are here. Nick the Van Man 90. Aunt D. I don't remember seeing Aunt D, but hello. Glad you're here. Cool. Good little group. So I hadn't planned to have Professor P on, but it just happened that way. So
yeah,
let's just hang out. We got Max Wedge, Dick Dastardly in the chat. Thank you all for coming out. Andy Wood is here. Andy Wood, I hope you caught a lot of that innovation on the last live on Wednesday night. I think you did. But, it's funny because I was getting messages from a lot of people after that Wednesday live just saying, wow, man, that's some cool stuff. Indeed it is.
Yeah. And I have my notes here also, too, if you guys want to talk about any of that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that will come out and they're cool, but they're not like a big jump. Some of the stuff you had last night was a big jump.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. So it's there are whatever revision points something, and then there's the clean sheet of paper, and things like that bell housing were a big deal.
Yeah, there's been a couple game changers that are going to be coming out. If you don't mind, real quick on this, is that the DLC lifters, I think in the next 3 years are going to be the big game changer, and probably the next couple, because once they hit the market for all engines, then people are really going to see that. The Evolution lifters, once they get more popular with those, that's that insert, and then obviously the cylinder heads, and then being able to take your small block Windsor and get a 4L60 behind it, that's another awesome thing.
Right on. Elizabeth Polito says, cool background. Glad it meets with your approval. I think it is a cool background. I like it.
Oh, yeah.
Something different for the off season. Andy is working on Casper. Andy, I know full well you don't have it in that shop of yours. I don't think it'll physically fit in that shop of yours. So either you're doing that at Micah's place or you are cold. Rapid Transit J is here. Glad you could make it. Cool, good little group. Well, it's the off season, so this is where we just kind of have fun and do fun social things, and that's what tonight is.
Nice.
My mom is here. Technician Troy. Cool. This always tells me when I see this many streaming in. A lot of people have notifications on, which is cool. It tells us it's working because with YouTube, it's kind of like a weekly thing, whether or not it will even work. Cope says Casper will fit in my shop. I'm sure that there's 100 shops it would fit in if he would allow it.
Right.
Then Max Wedge Dick Dastardly asks a wonderful question. This is a good one for both you and Cope. When are 727 billet drums going to get cheaper?
That would probably be something for Cope because that's more of he's got more of the niche of the Mopar pretty well sealed on that one.
One thing about it, Max Wedge Dick Dastardly, we're just talking about the 3D printing and how freaking cool it is for bell housings. That's not going to get your billet 727 drum, though, by definition.
Yeah. Cope said it, Biden tax.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, what is cheaper from the late 70s? Nothing. So if you're looking for taking a big step back on prices, don't count on it.
No.
And again, and just we talk about the trend in money. People will be shocked at how much a massive receivable student loans are for our government. And that's why it's such a hot button at election time. But let me tell you, our government has a massive amount of student loan debt that we probably figure they're going to want to collect. It's a huge amount of money. And when you look at that and you say, when are things going to get cheaper? Don't count on it.
That's right.
Like a good business that has money at the end of the year can say, hey, here's bonuses. Like our government is exactly the opposite. They're like, hey, folks, we're still waiting to collect on literally $1 trillion that nobody has any plan on paying back to us. So we're going to make stuff cheaper. No, it won't happen. But that is what the industry is facing, material costs and so forth and so on. You're just not looking at things in general getting cheaper. It all trickles down to folks like us.
Agreed.
Justin Hill is here. Glad you're here. JB's Little Shop. JB, if you expand your shop, will we have to call it JB's medium-sized shop? Just asking. J-Bo is here.
Nice.
That's J-Bo's his police car, his pursuit charger in his thumbnail, if you see it there.
Yeah, I was checking that out. I was looking at that.
Yeah. He needs to tune that thing up.
Come see me.
Dean Stevenson is telling my mom, I hope it doesn't sound creepy, but John Wilburn has been behaving himself. Yeah, the creep ship sailed, man. What can I say? Old McDonald has a car is here. Yeah. Max Wedge says, I don't think so. He didn't think it was going to get any cheaper. Almost a month's pay on a, I guess, SSD. I'm not sure what that is, but got to get one. Well, I'll tell you, the billet drum, let me tell you, it's when that thing blows up, you will never say, oh, man, I'm so glad I got that billet drum when the Spragg fails. You'll just said no one ever. That's like asking a person who had a fire if they were glad they saved money on their extinguisher.
Yeah. But I can tell you that I was glad that I had a Cope valve body when my Spragg failed because it had low band apply.
That's right. That's right. That's a big deal.
Big deal.
Yeah. I think that's a bigger deal than anybody gives it credit for. Everybody talks about the Spragg and they don't realize that low band apply is huge.
Mm-hmm. It's everything.
Now, I've never conducted any kind of testing or anything, but I'm curious if you had low band apply and didn't have a Spragg at all. Not saying you should, not saying it's safe, not saying it's a good idea, because I don't think it is at all. But I wonder how well a transmission would work if you didn't. I'm sure it would be, you're one O-ring or solenoid failure away from a blown up drum. That's why you would never do it. But I think it might surprise people how well a transmission could work that way.
Yeah, it was just like a bearing there.
It's a powerful holding device that people forego when they don't have the low band apply. Number 1 and number 500 in the house, Cope says. Indeed it is. On the left of your screen is billet valve body with trans brake number 500, and on the right is billet trans brake valve body number 1. And Shane and I discovered this at PRI last year.
Yeah.
We were talking about our Cope Racing billet trans brake valve bodies, and sure enough, Professor P has number 1.
I'm number 1. And you know what's funny about that is I made sure I told him to put number 1 on it. And he goes, really? And I was like, yeah. I said, I told him this is going to be a game changer. It's going to be everything. And I want you to make sure I have 001 on there. And it's still etched in there with the little gun. You guys all have the nice little fancy laser. Mine's the
yeah. That's part of the cool, man.
Oh yeah.
That's part of the cool. So you got the original, the OG, and then I've got some steps of refinement away from that, and it's great.
Yeah, this is the one that was actually in Cope's. It was actually one of his test valve bodies.
Yeah, I can see that. And now we're seeing it with the Casper-Matic.
Yeah.
Busted Radio Garage says Vice Grip Garage is selling his duster with merch, calling it a giveaway. Okay. Sounds bizarre. Heavens Mopars is here. Hashtag that will be a car again. Justin Hill asks how everyone is. Well, I can tell you this is a fun part of the week for me, is Friday evening, hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says, I don't know if my valve body has low band apply. Then it does not. It's that simple.
Yeah, you have to adjust your low reverse band for this. It has to be adjusted correctly.
Well, too, I'm trying to think if there's any easy way, and Cope can chime in. Is there an easy way to even tell if you have low band apply?
I don't know.
I don't know what that would be.
No, I was trying to think about it for a second, but yeah, they're really.
I'm thinking if you have a manual valve body and it doesn't have low band apply, you might not have engine braking in low 1 first gear.
Yeah, it would freewheel. Yeah, like the grinder freewheels in first gear.
Yeah, that's probably how you would know.
Mm-hmm.
Because in theory, you don't need it. Yeah, if it has engine braking and low band, well, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, I pulled that one out of the reference book of 30-some years ago.
Right. Me too. I was going through my mental
right.
Rolodex there, and I was like,
right.
Yeah, that's right. If it freewheels in first, that's what it is.
He said it does. It does have engine braking in low 1, then you may have manual. You may have low band apply. But that's what you want, though.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, having that thing holding in addition to the Sprag.
But doesn't Cope is the only one doing that right now, right? He's the only one.
The only one I know of.
Yeah.
I can only guess. And Cope, again, you chime in if you want. If you want, you can jump in the live. I know how much you like jumping in live on Friday, but you're certainly welcome. But is one reason people might not want low band apply the idea that you could have an overlap going to second because you're going band to band. Of course, you can tune around that and not have that problem, which you do. But I wonder if that could be part of the thought behind that. Dennis says he's never blown up a transmission, but he knows it can happen. Let me tell you, it can and it does. And there's a popular channel on YouTube where we've just watched one roll of Sprag and one blow a drum up in the last year. It does happen. Although, to my amazement, I have watched some of the videos of the Neutral Drop channel. You know those crazy guys, Professor P, Neutral Drop?
Yes.
It's 2 guys in New York City that love to get these junky auction cars that are going to scrap, right? And man, as the name implies, it is like every abusive thing you can possibly do to an engine and drivetrain. And I was going back watching videos of these guys, and I watched 2 of them where they had these Dodge church vans, 2-wheel drive Dodge church vans. Oh, man. Well, this guy is slamming it drive to reverse. We're talking getting up about 20 miles an hour and slamming it drive to reverse. I'm thinking, if you blow up the drum in that van, look where it is.
It's right there.
It's not by your foot. It's by your head.
Yeah.
Oh. So I was watching that, just like, how those guys have not done that, I have no idea. Wow. But see, that makes me think about a van because of the engine placement. It's bad enough to have it by your foot.
You know, it'd be really cheap insurance just to get one of those blow shields. Just put it up under there. I mean, just to have it there.
Well, a van has so much room around the transmission. You could probably put in a traditional shield.
Yeah.
Unfinished Project says I can flip a switch for engine braking and guarantee I don't have low band apply. Yeah, what he's driving there. He drives a lot of exotic earth moving equipment and things of that nature. So what kind of feedback and fallout have you gotten about all these cool new announcements?
I got a lot.
I bet.
The big thing was obviously the cylinder heads. That's why I saved it for the end. People were they were blown away by the price of the Victor CNC compared to the Thiec or Thytec or however you want to say it, compared to our Victor CNC, I mean, that thing's only going to be, only $19.95 bare, compared to the Thiec, which is like 25 or 2600, something like that. And it outflows it. And outflows it everywhere. And plus it's going to have that added value of the 6 bolts on it. So that way, and that's really the game changers, because you're gonna blow out the cylinder head, the head gasket on these things. Once you get over, really, it's 1700 to 2000 horsepower, in that range. Obviously, there's tuners, you can get around it. There's always these outliers that can get away with it, but on average, you're going to blow out the head gasket because there's just not enough clamping force there. With those extra 2 bolt holes around there, it's going to keep it from blowing out right there. That's going to be the 2000 plus horsepower, people. So that's where it's going to go.
Wow.
And, Dart came out with that engine block. I think we saw it last year. Remember that at PRI? We saw that Dart. It was right next to the Edelbrock booth. This is designed just for a block like that. That's got, the oil modifications in it, so on and so forth. That's designed for 2,500, 3,000. I'm not sure what they're reading. I think it was 2,500 is what he said. Horsepower. That's what these heads are designed for. So that's a massive, massive jump in performance from 1,700 to 2,500. That brings those things down into the low 4s, maybe 3s in the 8th mile. That's amazing.
That's off the hook.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's numbers we couldn't even fathom, in the 90s. I just couldn't even think of that. That was like Top Fuel stuff, No,
that's wild.
Yeah.
Max Wedge Dick Daster is asking, does a blanket actually stop the explosion from getting to you? Probably better than anything, including a shield.
It's kind of like a bulletproof vest. Imagine that.
Yeah.
That's
same
really
construction, what it is. Very similar construction, actually.
Yeah. Mine's Kevlar. The one I have, it's got a Kevlar pad in it. So that's really what it's for. And it's really puffy with that. So it's multi-layered carbon fiber.
Yeah, that is incredibly similar when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
New York guys, the same ones who complain about the stupidity of neutral drops. Hey man, if you got a car that doesn't have a danger of blowing up a drum on you and you're out in a field or something, go for it.
Have fun.
I don't have any problem people destroying their stuff. I just want people to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
J-Bo says a blanket is best, and J-Bo is a wise man.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now on the Cookie Monster now, I have a Power Glides type of bell housing that's it is the blow shield now. So, and the bell housing is a J&W bell housing, so that's a blow shield. So I don't need to run a blanket anymore on that.
Right, and there's different things for different. I like a stock case just because I like vintage stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to dispute how bright an LED is or how little electricity it uses, but when I like vintage stuff, I like to see light bulbs with filaments. That's just me. Yeah. That old yellow light is, so it all depends on what you're doing. And I like the blanket for that reason. It looks more correct on a nostalgic car.
Yeah. Hey, a question came across. Do you mind if I elaborate on it?
Of course. Grab anything you want.
It's going to be it's a little bit of a story, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, believe it or not, this actually just happened yesterday, and I really had no direction with Plan Z. I was just going to build an engine with crap I had laying around and just put it in it and run it. And my goal was to see what I could get out of the car with stuff I had compared to what Tony had with that car. But funny enough, the wife got a message on Marketplace, not Marketplace, but on Nextdoor. And this person randomly said, hey, you guys want a free Slant 6? It's just taking up, space here in the garage. Come and get it. So after work, I went over there. I went over to the house. They live half a mile from here, from my house. And I go to their house. They're picking up this thing. It's got an Offenhauser intake. It's got headers already on it. It was a running engine that's got a camshaft and a bunch of other stuff. It's been rebuilt. It's got brass freeze plugs in it, and it's like a built engine.
Nice.
And so I'm bringing this thing home, and I had an idea. I was like, you know what? I got this car from Tony. I got this other transmission. I got my 904 that I took out of my car. I'm going to put all that trick transmission into a slant 6 case. I'm going to take this engine that I got literally for free. I'm going to throw a carburetor on. I'm going to start this thing up. I'm going to take it to the track and see what I can do with it from just basically parts I have laying around in a free engine. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
So that's the plan with Plan Z now.
Sure. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people get all hung up on, they have a goal where they want to get to with it, an end goal, and they miss out on all the cool stuff you can do along the way to that goal.
Yes.
So is that your end goal? No, but in my opinion, I think all of the steps of the journey are more important than the step at the end.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of people die and never even make progress toward the step at the end and miss out on the middle.
I want to get it going down the track and just see where we're at, and that way we can kind of baseline it. Okay, here's the baseline. Now let's move on. I have all this fuel injection stuff. We're going to turbocharge. I mean, I'm going to try to make 400 horsepower in that car in a slant 6 and see what it will do.
Now, are you going to go to where electricians are working and get all the slugs they knock out of those boxes so that you can try to TIG them back into the car?
Honestly, what I'm really going to do is I'm going to just, I'm going to check for cracks in certain areas, but I know I can see where it needs to be gusseted. And I'm going to definitely, now I understand his plan was how light can I make it and how fast can I go?
Yeah.
I want it to be how safe can I make it and how fast can I go? I have 3 kids, so I'm going to definitely put in subframe connectors in it, and I'm definitely going to put in at least to a 10.0 legal cage in it, so that way I have some support on it. Just because I would feel safer going down the track doing that.
He and I weighed that car at an honest 2,000 pounds.
Yeah,
I mean, it is Swiss cheese.
Yeah, I will probably put 200 pounds into it just for safety, and that would make me feel better.
Is it very flexible? Have you jacked it up and see what the chassis is like?
Oh, I can get 7 inches on one side before the other tire comes off the ground. So yeah, it's definitely flexible. But that's with the windows. Obviously, the windows are just on straps, right? So there's really no support in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in those US Car Tool subframe connectors, the Weldon ones.
Yeah,
I'll put those in first, and then I'll put in the cage, and I'll just do it here myself. So,
well, if you want to keep with the ultralight theme, you can go chromoly.
Yeah, but I want to do it. Yeah, then I got to TIG it, and plus, I want to do what everybody in this chat can do. So that way you want to drill some holes in your car, have at it. You want to get a cage from Summit Racing for $100 and something bucks. This is the one you're going to get, So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to run the VRS carburetor, that 650 carb on that engine. Why not?
And you can have 100 people tell you it's too big and completely ignore the fact that it runs good.
That's right.
Because that's what'll happen.
Yeah. Now I'm going to put my 6,000 stall that I had for my 904 that was in my race car. Now, obviously, I'm not going to make near the power of that, so it's going to bring the stall significantly down. But I'm going to put that in the car just to see what it does. Why not? I have it,
Yeah, I know Andy's listening, and Andy Wood deserves a lot of credit for showing people just exactly what carburetor tuning is. When people say, "Oh, that's too much carb," here's Andy with a pair of 660s on a tunnel ram on a small block that's under 400 cubic inches, and the truck has street manners and will pull out in high gear and get 16 miles to the gallon with 430 gears and no overdrive. So when people say, "Oh, you can tune them," there's somebody who really did and showed everybody what it's all about. And the VRS, what it does is you've addressed a lot of the engineering things to make that possible. Andy just did it manually. He took a 1979 carburetors and he did all that stuff a la carte.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like the guys that, have figured out how to do the shift kits way back in the day. And then you have people like Cope designing valve bodies that already are made like that. It's a similar principle. So what the VRS does is you're looking at all the work that's been done and just making a carburetor like that, which is frankly what I think Holly should have been doing 50 years ago. taking some of this stuff. I got a question too.
Sure.
So I have a 650 Holly double pumper that I got in trade, and I'd ask Andy about it, and the main body on it has all kinds of hairline cracks in it. Not the metering blocks, not the fuel bowls, base plate, nothing. Just the main body, like it's a different kind of material. And Andy was telling me that a lot of those, those 660s have countless exactly. He said that a lot of those main bodies before a certain year, like a certain few years, had this. I don't know if it's a defective cast or what, but I don't think it's a hard fix. I could just trade the main body out.
Yes,
but
exactly.
Are you familiar with this? Have you run across a lot of this?
Oh yeah, no, I've seen this. I'm not sure exactly what year it is, but I ran a chassis dyno shop for a while. Actually, I owned it, and some of these Hollies would come in right out of the box, and literally be. You would check it with brake cleaner. You're like, I swear there's a vacuum leak.
Yeah.
And you would hit the side of the carburetor, and it would leak up. And then I was thinking, okay, I thought it was the gasket between the body and the base plate. So I took it apart, put a new gasket on there, and as I'm taking it apart, I'm looking, and you literally can see the cracks going from one side to the other, and it's like a fissure. And I'm like, wow.
Yes.
And I'm just like, so then I put on one of my carburetors on it, and it cured the issue. So I told him, oh, it was a bad carburetor. But yes, I have seen that at least 2 times, I think.
Well, this one I got, okay, at first glance, it looked fine. I got it in trade for doing some tuning.
It's got those little ridges on them. Like
exactly. Exactly. Yep. It almost looks like the kind of stuff that you normally see on some aluminum castings. So I didn't think too much about it at first. But then I got to look, and I said, man, that actually looks pretty bad. And I put up a strong flashlight, a 1,000 lumen light on the other side of it, and I could see pinholes in the valve, in the main body.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, this is a vacuum leaker for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So it was interesting. And I know that by 94, it was cured, because I bought a new Holly in 94, I remember, that wasn't like that. And I don't know what year it started, but there was a few years like that. And like anything else, you got quality things and you work through them and all, and Holly's, still here and kicking and all that. But I thought that was interesting. I never asked you about that.
650 is my favorite carburetor for the street for like 350, 360, 340, 318 engines, because it's a high velocity carburetor. So you're going to get great signal all across the power band. You'll make more power with the 750, but the 650 for the street, that's just the way to go.
Unfinished projects at JB Weld is what it was made for. It might, but the thing is, you'd be chasing those cracks forever. I'm assuming they get worse over time. But that was really interesting to me. So now I have an excuse to upgrade to some kind of good main body, and yeah, why not? Smoke Wrench Garage is in the house. Smoke Wrench Sean, glad you're here. Is your racing season all wrapped up, Smoke Wrench Sean? Dean says 76 to 86. Are you just guessing on those years? Because I'm pretty sure the one I have was later than that. It was like 92. And if I had even thought about talking about it tonight, I could have brought it in here and got some close-ups. Maybe I'll even put them on the community tab or something. But it was really significant.
You can see them.
Not saying don't buy one. What I'm saying is know what you've got, because it looks very clear to me that this problem does not extend into the fuel bowls or the main body, or not the fuel bowls, the metering blocks, or base plate, or anything. It just seems to be very isolated to the main body, something with the way it was cast. And I haven't seen it on any of the ones made in the last 20-some years either. So Aunt D says, I've seen many Model A motors held together with JB Weld. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Some of those are about like lawnmowers.
I told you that story about the JB Weld and the Slant 6 and the 5 cylinders coming into San Diego, right? It works.
Max Wedge Dick Dashley says, my Max Wedge intake is so crude, I started to polish it and changed my mind, afraid I'd make holes in it. Check the number after the model, 4777. 4777 is a 650 double pumper.
Yeah.
Last digit kind of ballpark the era.
Oh,
there's actually a year on them. There is a year cast on them.
Oh, okay. That's
And Andy says everyone I've seen has the plastic cylinder. You know what? That's a good point because the one I have that's cracked has plastic pump arms on it. And the one I know that I bought when I was in high school has metal. And so that you're right. Those two things may go together. J-Bo says he's found a casting flaw in the very bottom of the servo bore on the 904 we're working on, a pinhole. Oh, that's interesting.
wow.
Glad you found it because most people would have slapped that together and never saw it.
Yeah.
Which servo bore is it? T says to his knowledge, there's not a drop of JB Weld on the dart. Oh, come on, man. Live dangerously. I will say that I will have a drop of JB Weld on my Dart Sport because that is what Cope Racing Transmissions uses to seal the pass-through in the case for the trans brake.
Oh,
They
yeah.
use that for a thread sealant. So there you go. J-Bo's end play is 10 thousandths. Right on, man. That's really good.
That's good.
Did you use new thrust washers to get that, or are you just that lucky or that good? Or did you knurl them with a pizza cutter?
My input shaft and output shaft have a it's got a bearing on it with a pilot, so they line up together, and it's got a little bearing on it. You can set it with washers, so it's.
Aren't you glad that knurling has kind of gone by the wayside?
Yes, it's a pain in the butt to do it. It's a pain in the butt. You got to get the speed and feed just right, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
Oh, who was it I was kidding about knurling to try to horrify him? I can't remember, but yeah, if you go on YouTube, you can find videos about how to knurl pistons and things. And you will see a rush of people come in to defend that practice like you were giving up the Dead Sea Scrolls to not knurl something. I'm like, come on, people.
Really?
It's the front servo. Okay, so yeah, you would have had probably at least a lazy second gear.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe overlap going into high.
I'm just thinking about that knurling a piston. Like, really, that's a thing?
You haven't seen that? Oh, dude.
No.
Look for video. There's guys that they're knurling piston skirts.
Is it
for
for
real.
like? Is that for like holding oil or something? Is that what they're trying to do?
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to fix a really bad slap.
Oh,
that's what I think they're doing, and it's in industrial applications, but they knurl them, and I'm not even sure. I think what they're doing is they're creating more of a valley and less of a worried about getting the plateau up, because obviously that's how you would have more accelerated wear. But I'm not trying to add too much science to a process that we shouldn't do in 2023 for good reason. But man, there is like a fan club for the knurling. You should look it up. We should, you know what? That would be a great thing to do on Wednesday Tech Talk is find the videos about piston knurling and do that on there. That would be perfect for that.
I'm going to. Absolutely.
So Andy says the date code is below the list number. First three numbers is the day of the year it was made. Last digit is the year.
Oh,
yep.
You know what? I've seen that. I never knew what that was for, but now, okay,
yes.
That makes sense.
Yes. I got to tell you, I learned a lot of stuff about Holley carburetors from Andy Wood.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy.
He's the Holley carb whisperer.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff I just never paid attention to. I just made them run.
I'm serious. You have a Holley question, like vintage Holley speed stuff. I don't know anybody knows more about it than DV too.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's their thing. So old McDonald's now asking about nerd. See, now we've got the knurling thing going on. Yeah, you're welcome. Is it the valve stems that get knurled to compensate for the worn guides, or is it the guides that get knurled? Well, since neither is not an option, it's the guides. At least it should be. I would think, I would love Professor P's input on this, but if you were to knurl a valve stem, I think you're asking for a problem.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, because that's going to lock it up, because remember, you're only on spring pressure closing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to have that thing close easily. So, and that's where two objects can occupy the same spot at the same time. That's a valve and a piston. Bad things. Bad things.
So for those that, and I would say, since this is a smart crowd in here, I'm
Yeah.
sure virtually everybody in here knows what knurling is. But some of those who don't, especially younger folks, knurling is a process where you're displacing metal. Like you're taking so those of you in the gym, those things they put on the bars that you can hold on to them, that's knurling. That stuff you see on rod bolts that allows it to grab in the connecting rod, that's knurling. And anyway, there are people that will take a knurling die, for lack of a better term, and roll it across the surface to displace that metal. So you're creating divots. It also raises the metal around it and gives it a slightly larger overall diameter. But it also gives it an opportunity for stress risers. It also does not have as much surface area as the original metal had, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But knurling valve guides, that was a real thing. As Buff Del Campo says, I learned to knurl valve guides in 1971 in high school. I actually have knurled some valve guides in trade school. We learned the process. And it looks a little different how you knurl a valve guide, but same principle. It's displacing metal. Yeah, planetary camper like that. Correct.
Mm-hmm. Is Buff Del Campo saying that he knurled them on the outside, or is he talking about the guide, the actual?
Well, you're
valve?
knurling the guide on the inside to take up room where they have slop.
Yeah, because that would be hard to do that on the inside of the guide.
Well, the tool has like a spiral.
Yeah.
When you send it, yeah. It's JB says the machine shop I use will not knurl. Good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clint says my engine guy still does it. Yeah, there's people who do.
Wow.
Do you do guides in house, Professor P?
Yeah, we do guides, and that's what I'm trying to think. Is on the inside we peen them down the center, and clear them out, and then we I gotta make sure I say this correctly. We use a reamer, and then we there's a few other processes I can't talk about, but when he's talking about the knurling, I'm just trying to think. I mean, because most of the knurling I've done has been like on the outside, like where you hold it part,
right?
But to knurl something on the inside of a valve guide where the valve goes, that would be very. I'm sitting here just trying to think how that would work.
It has a spiral. So instead of using that checkered pattern, which would be very hard to apply, you're doing the same thing with like a screw looking thing.
Oh, it's on the inside.
When it makes a thread down in there, it's displacing the material
around it. I got you.
I mean, is it janky? Yeah. I gotta tell you, I mean, I have done valve guides, with the air hammer. And then you run your sizers down them and all that stuff. And I like it.
Yeah.
I've never had my own tools to do it. I have a buddy of mine that had a set of them. He died, but I could still borrow them anytime I want to do it. But I actually kind of like that old process. And it's not, it's not very 2023, but it's still cool. Yeah. Twisted Mopar ran knurled guides in my streetcar for 13 years. Yeah, common. It is. It is.
Wow. I've never seen that, honestly. But I grew up in one area, so maybe it's just not a practice where I grew up.
Yeah, and then of course Tall Garage is talking about knurling pistons. Yeah, it's a thing. It's really a thing. Wow. So Professor P is dying to go to YouTube and check out knurling valve guides. Now look at this blacksmithery. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that's new to me.
Thumper wants to knurl his ring and pinion gears.
Oh my god!
I'm going to get rid of some backlash.
Right.
Knurl the crank, but don't get caught.
Man.
Oh my gosh! Who knew that was going to be such a topic?
Right.
No, right. I'll tell you, I'm assuming you guys in the chat have seen this. One of the channels I enjoy, we all have these channels we like watching, just like passive channels that are fun to watch. One of mine is PK Process. Have you ever seen that, Professor P? It's called PK Process. So and I think it's filmed in India. They say United Kingdom, but I think that's where the video gets edited and put out. But I think it's actually filmed in India. So that's what it looks like. or it could be a place where Indians live in the United Kingdom. It could be, but anyway, these people are literally taking broken in half crankshafts,
I've seen it.
stick welding them together and cleaning them up and putting them back in service. They're taking casts of ringed out ring gear and taking casts of like a pinion gear, building it up with weld and grinding it with an angle grinder and putting it back in service on the ring gear. They are fixing, there's nothing these people will not weld back together and put back. Broken camshafts, everything.
It's funny because I didn't know the name of the thing, but I've been watching that. I think that's the most interesting thing, because it's like, how do you get they have these huge crankshafts that they're doing too, and you're like, dude, that's a massive crankshaft. How did you make that like work? Like, how'd you line up everything?
Have you seen how they rebuild the 4-valve 6-cylinder heads?
No,
okay. You know the carnival thing where they strap the woman on the big wheel and she spins and the knife thrower throws the knives?
Yep.
They put the head on something that looks like that. And then they have a lathe go across the head as it's spinning.
Wow.
And it leaves tool marks that just, I mean, to the eye, I'm like, how does that even seal? But it leaves this really coarse finish, and that's what they do. But that's how they true the head. It's wild to watch.
Wow.
But there's nothing they won't weld back together and put in service. For those who haven't seen it, PK Process, that is if you want to know how good we have it here in the first world,
yeah,
you need to see that channel.
Yeah, I didn't know that was the name of the channel, but yes, I've seen that. I was absolutely amazed at one of the crankshafts that they did. In fact, I'm looking at it right here. The guy's using a stick welder, like a stick welder.
Yes.
And how is he welding this thing together? And then he's just doing it between centers. Excuse me, sorry. Yeah, he's just doing it between centers. It's just amazing. Yeah.
PK Prof package. It may be. They don't even really show the people doing it. They just show the work going on. I was trying to guess from just seeing trucks out in the street and stuff like that.
I'm actually going to copy. I'm going to put it in here.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I put a link to it right there.
PK Process. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, check that out. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They have the whatever it takes. There we go. See, those people would look at Heavens Mopar's cars and say, "Yeah, that's easy." Yeah, and I don't know how well that stuff holds up over time. If you think about it, there's nothing's hardened like those gears. I mean,
no. That was the one thing I was looking at too. Like when he was doing the gears, like on the broken pinion, that was the last one I watched. And literally it was 3 broken off teeth. He welded teeth on it and he just cut it off. And you're thinking, that thing's going to be soft. How are they tempering that? How are they getting it hard? How are they doing anything with it? But yeah, that's what they're doing. And I also watched this channel too, where they, those, like, I think maybe it's India. The truck breaks down literally in the middle of the road and they drop the engine out. They rebuild it right there in the middle of the road, and cars are going by, and then they put it back up and they start it up and they drive it away. And you're like, dude, that's hardcore.
They make it happen. Roy Boy's in here. Want to say hi to him. Stephen Holtz is in here. Thank you guys for joining us. Yeah, it's interesting to watch that stuff. I mean, they get an interesting mixture of comments, but I think people should watch it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So think of that channel as like these people are on Gilligan's Island and they have no ability to get parts.
Yeah.
Don't you admire what they're doing for not being able to get any parts? And in that context, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And Clint saw a documentary called Yank Tanks about Cuban hot rodder, same type of deal. Right.
Yeah, here's I'm gonna I'm going to
Mexican
post this
spec.
one here. This is
Mexican
this
spec.
is the
How
one
you
where the
doing?
crankshaft.
Yeah, sure.
Here, that one right there.
Put anything up you like.
There you go. That's a really good one. That was the last one I watched, and this is a massive crankshaft, and it's just amazing to me.
Yeah, that I enjoy their spirit. They just make it happen. Jason says the Cubans are crafty for sure. Yeah, they have to be out of necessity. But I think it's good sometimes to do crafty things for the sake of testing your own craftiness and abilities.
Yeah.
Because if we get too dependent on being able to just click a button and get new parts, there is value in doing the experiment and fixing things we don't have to, just for the experiment and the opportunity to learn on our own terms.
Agreed. Can I figure this out, and can I make it work? That's the whole thing.
There is value in that experiment.
Absolutely. Because failure is the best, because then you learn how not to do it. And then you learn to try again and keep trying and keep trying.
Steven says it's fun to see people straighten a giant ship's crankshaft with a jackhammer. Yeah, I'm sure that's how they do it. I mean, use an air hammer to straighten a camshaft. So that is a curious thing too. So when you see cams ground, I mean, how much manual straightening needs to go on at the factory? Because
we always straighten every single cam. Every single cam has to be straightened.
Do you do it manually?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool. That's good quality control.
Yeah, we do it manually, and the reason being is because when they come back from heat treating, they're obviously going to be bowed and whatnot, and then anything that's going to be cast, especially when it's shipped, it goes into the machine, it gets cut, it comes back out, gets straightened, and then some of them actually go through 2 straightening processes. You get checked before it goes into the machine to get cut, then it gets checked when it comes back from heat treating, and before it goes for final polishing. So there's quite a process in that.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's interesting, and I think it's worth going through these processes just to learn them. It's like doing the valve guides. I mean, every time I hear somebody say, "Yeah, but you can just buy this part," that's true, and maybe that should be the normal thing you do. Maybe that's the prudent thing to do, but it's worth doing some of these things to learn them. Kind of like reloaded ammo. I don't shoot reloaded ammo. I live in the first world. I can buy it for 20 cents a round. But you know what? It's good to do it and learn how it works and own the skill, right? Babbitt bearings interest me. Exactly.
Me too.
There's one I've never done.
Yeah, I've seen it done. I was there, but I never did any of the pouring, and it was crazy too, because when you turn the engine over after a rebuild, you can barely turn that thing over, and then once you get it in there and running around, it gets all knocked into place and it smooths right out. You can literally see the break-in happening on Babbitt's. They're amazing.
Dean Stevens said Cubans were smart even before they had no money. Let me tell you, that necessity is the mother of invention. There's a lot to that. You can carry it to an extreme to where you get beyond diminished returns too, but just Mopar Joe. All right, Mopar people, what time do we drink the Kool-Aid? Oh man, funny stuff. Aunt D says, did Babbitt a few times. Yeah, I know that Turbo Tom said that they did new main bearings like that in his Model T before he brought it to Sykeston. They had done new main bearings like that. Dust Devil said, like rebuilding calipers and wheel cylinders. Yes, sir. And I do my own calipers and wheel cylinders. I choose to do that. I like that better than the parts store pieces.
Yeah.
I hone them. I measure them. I get my kits from Rock Auto and do it that way. Dean Stevenson's got a question for Rich, but it's a good one for you. How hard is it to bend a flat plane crank?
To bend it like how hard is it to bend a flat
I don't
plane?
know.
Well, they usually tend not to take as much power because you're going to have less material on them, hence the reason why they're a little lighter. And I've done these before when I was at Crowder. We've made a few flat plane cranks. we made one for his name's Lewis, and he was going to put about 1,500 horse to it. I'm not sure if it ever went, but they're great for RPM, but I don't really they vibrate too much. So
hey, Hot Rod Guy Garage, how you doing? T, good to see you guys. So Dean Stevens says, I really like the Y-Block twist forge machine. You know what? That's actually a good just jumping off point to talk in general about the difference between twist and non-twist forgings.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that there's too much just everybody understands cast forged and billet, but then there's also the difference between a twist forging and a non-twist forging. The way they literally make the crank from the mold.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these cranks, I don't know which was which from the factory. Probably almost all of them were done with twisting the journals in place.
Yeah, because most of them are going to be hammered out as far as flat and then twisted.
Yep. Where do you get cups for wheel cylinders? Buffdale Campo asks. Rock Auto. You can still get them over there.
Yeah. They don't have them at O'Reilly's or AutoZone anymore. Even Napa here. They don't even have them.
I don't know if you can order them from those places or not. You probably still could, but I got to tell you, you're not casting doubt on anybody working parts counters. I don't know. But go in the parts store and find the oldest guy you can who works the parts counter.
Right.
Because I hate to say it, but the Gen Z guy isn't going to have any idea what you're talking about.
No.
But you might. I have ordered wheel cylinder kits from Advance Auto, and it was just fine. But I know you can get them on Rock Auto if you go over there and look. Indirect Connections here. What's going on, Jason? Good to see you, sir. Colleen says that O'Reilly sells the rebuild kits, so you can still get them at O'Reilly. Okay, that's great info.
Yeah, the one here where I live at, they don't have them in stock. Obviously, they can order whatever they want in, but they don't have anything in stock.
They can order them, but you got to make sure to get somebody who can help you get it in.
That's right.
So either find a person at the parts counter who's going to know what that is. I know it sounds crazy. You'd think a parts professional would know, but amazingly, a lot of them do not. Or get your part numbers before you go there.
That's exactly what I do. Is I go to Rock Auto, get my part numbers, cross-reference it, take it in there. This is what I want right here.
I got to tell you, so you know these self-serve kiosks that a lot of these businesses, restaurants and things have now? Mm-hmm. Self-serve kiosks. I keep waiting for one of those to appear at the parts store.
Perfect. I agree.
I mean, I think that would be the greatest thing. If I could walk into Advance or AutoZone or O'Reilly and just have the self-serve kiosk where I can go in and look up my own parts and then just go to the register and pay, or have somebody pull them or tell me when they be in, that would be great.
I agree.
And so when I need something that is going to be easy or whatever, I can ask for it. If I need something I know is going to be more difficult, I can go do that.
Luckily, I have a commercial account, so I can go right into the back, and I usually talk to the upper echelon of those people at the parts store.
Yeah, a lot of times I go in looking for weird stuff, and they send me over to that counter.
Yeah.
Well, the guy who used to work that counter is a neighbor of mine, lives up the road a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was used to it, but the parts store people earn their money when I go in there. I ask for weird stuff a lot. Kim says AutoZone has them per buff. Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Okay, well, good.
Right. Colleen says, went to the old guy at the counter and he didn't know anything about cars. Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of old guys who work counter have no idea, too.
But that's
I'm just saying your odds are better.
Yeah, it's the greatest chance of having the right one, right?
Sure, that's your best chance of having the right. It's not surefire.
Yeah.
Are big chains all you have? I'll tell you, Mexican Spec, unfortunately, most of the little independents have been run out by the big chains. We had several independents in my hometown, and that's where I went for everything. And the first big chain to come in was Advance Auto, and that got rid of some of them. Then AutoZone came in, that got rid of the rest. And now the town that used to have Southern Automotive, Balls Automotive, Counts Automotive, now has Advance AutoZone O'Reilly. Napa's the only one that has kind of stood that test of time, but Napa's
at least there is very much focused on the commercial accounts now.
That's good.
Just the way it is.
Yeah.
Fox Can Fix It says, depending on where you live, parts stores can stock what sells. Yeah, they do, but they don't stock nearly what they used to. Most of it's next day stuff now.
Exactly.
Now, when you were looking for Master Cylinder for Cookie Monster, was that kind of a
problem?
What was the deal with that?
Here's the problem with that is that the Master Cylinder I had on there was the 1/2x20 threads that were going in there, and they were front and rear. But a Dodge has got a 9/16 in the front and a 1/2x20, and I had no way to get that inverted flare to a -3 adapter. The only one who sold it was Strange. So I couldn't find a 1/2x20 1/2x20 at all, Master Cylinder. And that was the problem, is that when it finally came, that's why I just went down the parts store, and then I was going to make it so that way it had a steel hose that came off and then an adapter. And then I was just like, look, if I'm rushing it, I'm just not going to bring it, at that point.
I get it. Yeah. There does come a time when you fly the flag and say, I'm at peace with my decision. And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Nope.
I mean, that's not, when you're, in the pits and there's a final round coming up. That's not when that is, but no, I was curious what that was, because I still run the iron stuff.
Oh yeah. I like those aluminum ones a little better because I can get a bigger bore. Some people want a smaller bore so they have more pedal feel, so you can technically get more leverage on it. I like the bigger ones. Personally, I like the feel of the brakes because I can hit that brake hard. I've big, strong legs. I can get it down there. So I'm not worried about that. Wow. Mexican Spec said, on the other hand, AutoZone here doesn't even list a mechanical fuel pump for a 225 slant 6 as being available. Millions of them were sold here, not in their computer. Wow. That is amazing to me. That's the first one that's amazing to me. Wow.
Danny Boyd determines which location has what I need, then I go there. Yeah. We now have 2 Advance Autos in this town, and it seems like the new one is the one that, even though it's smaller, the new one's the one that gets all the stock, which they're about the same distance from me, so whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Twisted Mopar says, have to understand most vehicles you're asking for parts haven't been built in 50 years. Well, that's true. That is a lot of what I get, but I have the same challenges when I ask for parts for a 2002 CRV. Just Mopar Joe says it's an automotive enthusiast gathering. Probably a regular anyway.
Right.
Max Wedge says, anyone else ever feel like some people can't see you? Max Wedge, I can see you, but I'm watching on StreamYard. So. All right. Fox Can Fix It in Cincinnati. Yeah. See, I got to tell you, I kind of like the Cincinnati area. I've only been there once. If I was going to live in Ohio, that would be the part I want to live in. Danny Boyd says, AutoZone has sold tens or hundreds of thousands of slant 6 fuel pumps back in the 80s and 90s. I'm sure they stocked that part back then.
Yeah. Luckily, mine here they started stocking slant 6 parts now.
Because of you.
Because of me. That's right. Valve cover gaskets. Normally it'd take 3 days for a valve cover gasket. Now they just keep them in stock.
I think Andy Wood says that his local parts store stocks Valvoline racing oil because of him.
Oh yeah, mine does too now. 2050. Yeah, they didn't have it before, so they have the 2050 Valvoline now on the shelf.
Right. That's good. That's concierge service.
Right.
I'm just hoping that parts stores themselves stay a thing. Right. We used to have a CarQuest store here that I really liked. It was great. Had a lot of really good stuff in it. And it was one of those parts stores that had a lot of the more obscure things like building tools, painter's tools, that kind of stuff. that you don't see in a lot of the big three box stores. And it went out because when AutoZone bought out CarQuest, it just vanished. And yeah, it's kind of a bummer. I like stores that still sell that kind of thing, like taps
Yeah.
and dies and that the stuff for the builder.
Yeah.
Indirect Connection says his AutoZone had an axle bearing for the 7 1/4 in the Belvedere. That
Wow.
I don't know, Professor P. Do you know 7 1/4? Does it have a bearing that's reused in a lot of things? Is it kind of a common size?
Well, after I think it's 74, 75, I think maybe 75, it went to a green bearing. So the brakes are literally, the bearings are out there are kind of like an 8 3/4. So my 7 1/4 has green bearings on it from an 8 3/4, and the brakes are literally 8 3/4 10-inch drum brakes on it. I forget the exact year, but the early ones were just that one, the bearing that rides on the axle. It was just like it's like literally a roller bearing.
Andy says they stock tons of Autolite 3924s for him and NGK 11 plugs. That's pretty cool. CarQuest used to be great before Advance bought them. Yes, I agree.
Because you actually had really retired mechanics there who just wanted to still work, and were like, I'll do this just for some extra cash.
That's right. The one-eyed cat is here. Glad you're back. Yeah, Tall, we know that I don't know. I noticed the auto parts landscape is changing. I don't know how much share of that Summit and Jegs have, for example, because they've been trying to get a share of the daily parts business.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one thing I've noticed here too is where I live at now is the trend of people just buying cars or throwaway cars. No one's keeping their cars much more than 3 or 4 years.
You know what's funny about that? You say that. Back when cars that you could drive forever were being made, people didn't keep them but a couple of years.
Yeah.
Because they also don't cost like $2,000.
Yeah, exactly. But
and now the cars cost $40,000. They throw them away like lighters.
Yeah, right. They just constantly having a car payment. It's like, whoa,
Danny Boyd says Rock has put a hurting on the parts chains. Yeah, they have, and I'll tell you that those parts chains have asked for that. When they have not infused the value into the service, that's what's happened.
Oh, Dallas texted me.
What's that?
I said Dallas texted me. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Does he give us his regards?
Yeah. Just texting him, telling him I'm doing live with you.
Halfwit is waiting on a cam from Comp, and he's waiting on shipping.
Oh, if you send that to spolito at edelbrock.com, and that's one's S, my last name Pulido at edelbrock.com. Send me the information, and I'll see what I will find the truth for you.
Yeah, Halfwit. Yeah, do that. He also said, I heard they're having metal quality problems. Well, you can hear a lot of things depending on where you get your info on YouTube. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
There's a ton of information out there that is true and a ton that is not.
A lot more is not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Rock bought up the TRW stock. I did not know that, Colleen. That's cool.
Oh. It's good to know.
Right on. So Tony says you can go almost anywhere online and get parts for less than a row. Which is true. You generally can. But, do you need it today? Is it in stock? There's convenience factor, and depends what you're buying, how quick you need it.
Halfwit, it is SPULIDO at edelbrock.com.
You can post that in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
That email.
I'll do that.
Then Halfwit, you can click on it and at least have it saved in your browser for after the live. Yep, Just Mopar Joe throws a few oil filters on his online order. I get that. But Just Mopar Joe, he loves the personal service at the O'Reilly's in Brinkley, Arkansas. We know that's his place to shop.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and just a heads up, I'm not in sales and I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I'm just a stupid engineer. So when you send that to me, I will do my best to see what I can find out for you. So I don't.
Professor P's just helping us.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to do is to help you guys out. It's a big company. It's very large. In fact, we have many different, campuses. So yeah, I can see what I can do.
That's just purely a helping us out thing. Because he's cool like that.
Thanks.
Well, that's the kind of people that I like to hang around and do stuff with, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I can tell you, there's people that have business relationships and all kinds of stuff. If I have somebody on my live, I must think their personal character is good too, or they wouldn't be here. I don't hang around people like that. I don't. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's who Professor P is off camera too. He's that dude that wants to help people, and he's the same guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't do this for show.
Yeah, and I don't get paid at this. What I'm doing right now, this is all just to help you guys out in the community. That's all I try to do.
For every one thing that Professor P has done publicly to help somebody, I could probably tell you 20 that no one ever even knew about, because that's just who he is. So for whatever that's worth, and that's why I'd have him on my live. That's why you people are in the live.
Yeah,
because you're all cool folks like that too. Sam Mountain Ballistics Hunter is in the chat. How you doing?
Wow.
Computers now. Yeah, remember the counters at the parts stores that had the book that was 6 feet across?
Yeah, 2 rows.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they don't do the books anymore. I remember when the Advance here got rid of the books finally and quit doing the books. I got a ton of them. So I have a lot of those old books, with part numbers and things like that, obscure, out of production stuff. It's occasionally, it's handy.
The one thing that really helped me out a lot is, remember when they had the picture books for like ported vacuum switches or just.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, being a person like me, you don't really know, because you're kind of like, well, this is this engine in this car with this, different manufacturer transmission. You can go in there and look for different hoses, just the shape of it. How long is it? It would tell you everything you need to know. So most of the parts you would find are just from that.
Yeah. One thing that's handy too about what you're talking about is when you have something and the stuff is missing.
Yeah.
So when you have a missing part, you don't even know what you're looking for till you see a picture somewhere.
Correct.
And you can do pretty good on the internet now, but man, for some of those internal parts, those schematics are helpful. Yeah, Buff has worked at some of those. Yep. Buff remembers those days.
Yeah, I was a parts jockey for a little while.
Yeah. Some Napas still have the books. Yeah, I'm sure if anyone still does, it's Napa. Yeah, new part numbers, right? And it's eventually going to be like that Twisted Mopar, but it is pretty cool to have some of that stuff. Sometimes there's a unicorn part that hasn't been made in a really long time, and if you can just find a part number on it, you can go to eBay and look and find that part you couldn't find any other way.
Correct. Yeah.
Because there are people who sell a lot of stuff and don't know what they have. Like, let's say it's an obscure set of bearings, right? And all they know is they went to an auction and they got a bunch of bearings and they have a part number on them, right? And that's all they know. So they go on eBay with that part. That means nothing to you. But if you have an older book and you can find that part number, you're now the only person who can order those bearings, know what to go to. So guess what? You're going to get them cheap. Not only are you going to have that part you can't find anywhere else, you're going to get it for next to nothing because nobody else knows what it is. So that's kind of the value in some of that stuff, especially for stuff we're looking for sometimes, some of this weird old stuff. Old carburetor kits. You can do really well at an auction if you can source all that stuff figured out.
Yeah.
eBay auctions, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, buy those big lots, you know.
Right. Travis's Mopar Garage is in here. How's it going? Yeah. So Mexican Spec said when he worked at a Chevy dealer in 1987, I could order any part I wanted all the way back. Well, that's cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Travis says Black Betty is coming home Sunday. Cool. Unfinished project has tons of bearings and piston rings bought at auction. I don't know what they're for yet. He will. You'll figure that out. If you need any help, let me know. Glad to help you.
Travis, he lives in this area, the Memphis area, right?
He does. Yes.
Okay. Tomorrow is our very first Cars and Coffee at the Edelbrock facility from 9 to 11. You should come by and check it out.
Yeah, if you can do that, Travis, go check it out. Bring us some video.
Yeah.
So Mexican Spec doesn't understand the new car dealers limiting their part sales because they don't have the numbers to look up. The parts are still in the warehouse. I don't know. I've opted out of the entire new car thing altogether.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. Professor P, if you were going to design a new car to be sold on the market, and of course this is entirely subjective, what would you design? What would you want to? You're playing with somebody else's budget, so it's just your creativity. What would it be? Would it be utilitarian? Would it be performance? What would it be? So car company X is coming to Professor P and saying, "Here you go. We're bankrolling. What do you want to make?"
Honestly, it would be simplicity, and I definitely wouldn't sell it in California. Let's just put it that way. Because I would want it. Obviously, it would get good mileage. But as far as there's two ways to think about this, because I have a car that I drive every day. It's Slant 6. The whole idea is mileage and performance as far as what you can get out of Slant 6. So for me, it would be, and it's very utilitarian. That's the way I like it. That's the reason why I like that Dodge Journey we got. It's just literally just utilitarian. It has none of the bells and whistles. So for me personally, that's kind of where it would be. Just a point A to point B type of deal. And then you would have your fun car, that would just be mine. That's how I would do it. That would be mine. It would be utilitarian, something anybody could work on, the least amount of wires and computers, and it wouldn't be sold in California. It wouldn't be legal. It'd be a federal car only. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What is the one thing you think that across the board that the whole automotive industry should change? There's one thing. If you say you have a seat at the board table, what would it be? If there's one thing you think that they should change.
Get rid of the DEF in diesel.
Okay.
That would be the biggest thing I would change. Not only is that it's across the board. Diesels, they say that they're, that they're bad and whatnot. Obviously, we see all the videos with people rolling coal, but a real diesel like Volkswagen, I mean, they can get 50 miles of the gallon. Some of the Mercedes-Benz can. I think if we pursued that market for daily driving, I think we'd be a lot farther ahead. I definitely, this is going to sound weird coming from me, but I really believe that a style of a hybrid would be the best. Something that you could use an electric assist motor that would help on the engine. Like I've thought about this for years. Is like putting an electric motor, like a Ford 9-inch. It's got that carrier bearing that's on there, right? That bolts on. If you could put an electric motor right there, so that way it just helps it at the wheel just to get the car going, because that's where the gasoline is very inefficient. Electrics are very inefficient as far as when they're on the top end. So you just have the best of both worlds. It'd help you accelerate instant torque with the electric motor. Then once the car's going, then you could basically turn that off. But it would also be regenerative, so you could use that as your brake. So when you let off the throttle, the gas actual accelerator pedal, it would use that to down, and it would store the energy. And then it could just be like in capacitors for a quick dump.
Like a train.
Yeah, exactly. And then you could put it, like I said, in capacitors. You wouldn't have to have all these big crazy batteries and whatnot. because you have a gas engine. So it would just be you start the car up, and as soon as you start driving, it's charging up so that when you hit the first red light, you stop, and then you use the electric motor to get it going, and then you could go back onto the engine. It would just be an electric motor assist.
Well, the Blacksburg Transit buses here, they're
Mm-hmm.
hybrids like that. They're diesel
Yeah.
and electric.
Yeah.
Aunt D makes an interesting point. We rented a Citroen diesel in France. It was great and had no DEF. France. So when we talk about emissions, France has all nuclear power. So
Mhm.
they're not burning all of these train car loads of coal for electricity like we do here.
Yeah.
They have nuke power, which I think we should have here. I think rather than go after our cars and lawnmowers and weed eaters and all that stuff to try to get that 1% at the expense of us automotive hobbyists, why don't we go after, we're not optimizing our nuke.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Mexican Specs asking, do brake lights come on the electric motor if you lift your foot off the accelerator? It would be smart enough, obviously, if it would know its amount of DXL. So, like if you're in first, obviously it's going to DXL faster. But if you're like say in third and fourth, it would just be like having a manual car. You'd let off the throttle, car would naturally deaccelerate. It would go faster, but it would be a percentage. Since the electric motor knows how fast it's going, how much energy it's producing, and you're slowing down rapidly, it would just automatically put on the brake lights if it's slowing down faster than, like, say, traffic could normally.
First responder, he just joined the chat, and hello, Damien. He says, so I heard to get rid of DEF. Why? What would be your reasoning for that, Professor B?
The chemicals, the poison. I worked a lot in when I was in Southern California. I drove on the 805 quite a bit, and that stuff just hovers and hovers and hovers, and it really takes almost the air out of your lungs when that thing's starting to pump the DEF into the exhaust, and and then because of the DEF, like Dan says right here, exactly, it just popped up. That was my next thing, is that now you have an EGR valve, you have all this regenerative things that putting it back into the exhaust, and it just makes it runs hot and it smells absolutely terrible, and it hurts. It really hurts to breathe that stuff. So it's got to be doing something bad.
So he says you're talking about trusting a computer for the brake lights to come on. So I don't know really with electric vehicles how they do that, how they manage coasting per se.
Mm-hmm.
But But I'll tell you, drive by wire. Look what you're trusting there.
Yeah, but no, it would still have a brake light switch with the brakes. But like like on a manual car, when you let off the throttle and when you're basically rev matching the deaccelerate, there's no brake lights, and especially when you get into second and first gear, you're really deaccelerating fast.
I actually like the idea of electric vehicles. What I don't like is all of the modern craziness that all of them are going to have. It's not using an electric motor to drive the car. It's using the computers to control the electric motor. Is the problem.
Mm-hmm. I think that it got too overly complicated too fast. I think, just if you had one just as a round town car, that's the reason for an electric cars, because you're going to be idling. If you had a gas, electric can just sit there. You're moving around, instant torque. But if you're going somewhere, I always say gasoline for that point.
Stumper says nuclear vehicles, Fallout 4, here we come.
Right? Well, they already got them. They're called Teslas. Have you ever seen them burn?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I saw an article where a couple was driving one and they ran over something in the road, and the shrapnel in the road pierced that pan on the bottom and got a battery. I think they have something like 8,000 or 9,000. Literally, the batteries in those cars, I'm not kidding you. So this takes a 16650 battery. If you go just one size up from this light right here, I am not kidding. You can go look this up. There's plenty of it on YouTube. This is a 16650 lithium. An 18650 looks almost exactly like this. Tesla's battery packs are made of huge groups of these.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's in a Tesla battery. And when they get punctured and take so little, if you look at how many of these contacts All it takes is a little collision damage to get these things to short, and you will have a nasty fire that you're not going to put out with water. That car burned to the ground, and the only reason they could even tell what the car was were the wheels.
Wow.
I've seen them. The stories of these Teslas and electric vehicles catching on fire is unbelievable.
Wow.
To me, it's a little frightening. I think it merits a little pause in buying something like that.
Yeah. I'm gonna be getting going here soon, John.
Yep, sure.
I want to say goodnight to the kids, take a shower, and go
Absolutely.
spend a little time with them. But it was awesome, and thank you for having me on.
Fun.
And if we got to a question you want to ask, or I didn't see it, or whatever, slantdailygarage@yahoo.com. Check it out, and we'll send me over there. And then if you send me an email to Edelbrock, I'll see what I can do for you there on that camshaft.
Hey, thanks for joining us, Professor P. Just fun hanging out. You have a great evening, man.
You guys take it easy. Have a good week. All right.
Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was fun. We didn't plan that. We just decided that literally just minutes before the live. We were talking, just decided to do it. Mexican Spec says, what's going to happen to the electric car industry when the ships and transport trucks refuse to move them? Oh, I'm sure there's going to be enough lobbying to make sure that'll still happen. What I'm more curious about is what's going to happen to the automotive industry when the Chinese cars start coming over here. Man, you think that cars are cheap and disposable and bad now? Wait till that starts coming over here. See, the thing that's keeping it from happening now is you have so much tax on bringing that stuff in. Like these little mini trucks and stuff, it costs so much, it's not practical. But eventually, we will get enough lobbying power and stuff over here. Not by my choice, but it'll happen, and we'll start having these really cheap, disposable, lighter quality Chinese cars running around on the roads over here. We're going to look like a third world country. People just out there playing bumper cars and these cheap cars and disposing of them. And I hate that, but that's probably where it's going. Yeah, Chinese cars are all over Mexico and they're garbage. Exactly. Chinese bought the MG name. Oh, my. Wow. So they're buying names to give themselves some credibility. I can see that. They've done that with others. Looks like we already are third world. We're fast going there, Danny Boyd. Fast going there. Mexican Specs says, I saw a Mexican SUV that had a price of $799,999. That is not cheaper than any other SUV out there. Okay. First responder says, we will catch up to everyone else. We'll see what happens. Chinese SUV. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay. I have no idea. I mean, just that's a number I can't even imagine. Pesos, not dollars. Okay. I don't know what that converts to in dollars. So. Dean Stevens says, I like ablations. When you see the reentry of a spaceship, you get 4 minutes at 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Abrasive lithium-ion battery, an overrun, maybe 12 hours. That's a very Dean Stevenson-like comment, but I'm not sure what to do with that. Over 40,000. Okay, right. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm opting out of all of that. It's just not me at all. You know how cool a car I could make for 40 grand? My gosh, I wouldn't even know what to do with a budget like that. JB says the price is because of all the computer and electronics. Hate all of it. Me too. Yeah, I'm opting out. I think more people will out of necessity as time goes on. Blower on a Hemi, 40 grand spent. Not me. But that would be a better use of, you know what? I try to do the blower on the Hemi for 38 and have 2,000. So I have something left over to stick that blown Hemi in. How about that? Kind of already did that. If I had that kind of money, I'd stick it in the Roadrunner. How's that? Tony says, if catching up with everyone else includes giving my freedom away like everyone else, I don't want it. Right on. Right on, 100%. I agree with that. I took close-up pictures of a Chinese SUV called a Haval. Okay, that's a brand name. They don't know that Haval is where the poorest of the poor live. Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, not me, man. I'm just not for any of that. They can save their propaganda for someone else. JB will stay with my pre-fuel injection S10s. Right, I got to tell you. First responders said, unfortunately, neither did they, but they had their guns taken away. A lot of those places allowed their guns to be taken away. They said it wouldn't happen. They were wrong. I hear all kinds of people say it wouldn't happen. They're still wrong. The doorbell rang, and look who appeared. It's Andy.
What's going on, John?
What's going on, Andy? What's new tonight?
I'm out here freezing my butt off.
You're doing the converter at home, huh?
Yeah. Out in the driveway, baby.
Woo! You got to be a warrior doing that tonight.
Well,
if you were doing this in March and had this weather after all the really cold, you'd be like, today's the day I can do it. But to do it on a day when we're going the way down to cold, it feels even worse.
Yeah. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how this thing does with this new converter, man. The last one was a 10-inch. Well, the last three's been 10-inch converters, and this is a 9-inch converter. So
the last three.
And this one's a spragless, so I'm sure it will probably lose some mile per hour, but
Cope said, I bet it's not a lockup converter.
No.
And speaking of that, somebody needs to order a lockup converter. For E4OD.
Hey, well, you can ask Cope. I was out here he sent me measurements of the E4OD, right? So
right.
I'm sitting there underneath the truck measuring to find out where the yoke is going to fall. So figure out what I'm going to do with the drive shaft and all that stuff. So yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, it should fit the truck pretty nice.
You would think so, but I think it's going to be tight.
Yeah. Well,
against the floor pan. Yeah.
Well, how does your floor pan compare to like the newer floor pans? I mean, as I've never really compared the two.
You got to remember that year F100 is like a mini truck compared to later stuff. If you put a late model F-150 beside that truck, that looks like a little Courier beside the F-100.
Interesting. It'll be interesting how it comes together. So tell them you're changing the converter. What's the experiment you're wanting to do next?
Well, if I get this junk put together and everything's good, then you gonna head this way, right?
Yeah, right.
So you tell them what we're going to do.
Well, so Andy wants to test these 660s that were on the 393. So we're looking to do that at Shady Side on Sunday and see what it does with a carburetor that's a known quantity and with a different torque converter.
Yeah, because I really think, and I've talked to Shane about this. I mean, when I put the Dominators on it, I hate to say it, but a lot of that was for the look, you know, and trying to figure out how to make those things work. I didn't necessarily think that they would be best. So it'll be interesting to see how, 660 will compare to those.
I think they're going to work out really good over time, though, because of the distribution of fuel. I mean, they're got the bigger pattern. I think they're going to work good, but it's going to take a lot of sorting.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does great. I mean, but you have more velocity through a 4150 versus that 4500. And I really think it would help it out in the first 60 feet, trying to get that truck moving. But I don't know that. I'm assuming that. So that's why we want to figure out what happens.
So what are you going to do? Are you going to try to see with that Time Bomb C4? How are you going to figure out your data? Because you haven't gotten to get enough good runs on the truck really to know, or have you? Or
Yeah, right now I think it's sitting on about 12 runs, and it's an average 680, 690 truck. At about 98, 99 miles an hour. And that's with those other converters. So figure make one run as it is with that converter with those carburetors, and then we can start tinkering around.
First responders asking around, how can I get my torque converter to lock up better? So I don't know. He's asking if there's an adjustment on the CRT valve body. That'd be a good question for Cope if he's still in here. And Barrows, you didn't miss it, but Professor P was in here for a good while, and then the doorbell was ringing, and Andy came and joined us.
Yeah, I thought I would drop in before I head in the house.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Glad you're here.
Yeah. So, well, I'm gonna hop off from here, man, and head in the house.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I'll catch you later.
Sure.
I'll let you know how this turns out tomorrow.
Yeah. Let me know so I can plan, and it'll be a bunch of fun.
All right, buddy. We'll see y'all later. Good night, everybody.
See ya. Well, that was fun. Didn't plan that either. Didn't plan Professor P or Andy. Just worked out that way. Yeah, you never know who's going to wind up drifting here on a Friday. "38 POS Racing is here." And you showed up right as both of my guests just wandered out. Bear Rose Garage. Busy Radial Garage stole your initials? Well, that's funny. Now, there's a lot of initials that kind of recycle when you get to looking at it. That was cool. Him to stop by. Andy's a cool guy. I like to surround myself with cool people of good character, and that's the kind of people I like hanging around. Scared them all. Not hardly. Now, I really sincerely enjoy getting to hang out with you guys on a Friday for that reason. Y'all are good people. And every single person whom I see in the chat right now, I've had the pleasure of meeting in person, with the exception of Danny Boy. Then he drops by right as I say that. But everybody was on my screen at that time. There's Shopcat. Why'd you let me in? Well, you're here, man. Glad you're here. Man, Shopcat, I bet it's cold where you are. Cope says Andy's not a troll. Indeed, he's not. Andy's a good dude. Mexican Spec says, you haven't met me either. Not in person? No. But everybody that was on my screen at that moment I said it, I had. So I'm going to be doing some testing with Andy. We'll know tomorrow. We want to make sure everything's squared away and we can do it. So I'll make the commitment tomorrow whether I'm going to be just doing some testing with Andy down at Shadyside Dragway tomorrow or on Sunday. I'll be going down there, and or maybe Saturday or something. We'll see. But then after that, I'm going to be headed up to Lowell, Indiana, and got some shenanigans planned with John Cope. And so that should be a barrel of fun. Travis says, is it September yet? September 2024? No, but it's coming fast. Danny Boyd says, if I was closer, I'd come do some training. Yeah, you know what? I would certainly consider that, doing a YouTuber class. I would consider it. I don't know how many of you folks would want to come to Southwestern Virginia, or if there was a group that was in one area, I would consider going there. I mean, I've traveled to train before, and teach before, so whatever. I'd consider it. But see, being YouTubers, you guys are going to be blowing up watermelons with tannerite and all that stuff, and that's all fine and fun. But I mean, more what my wheelhouse is teaching people to be good, competent operators. There's Rob's Rods and Streetcars. How's it going, Rob? Mexican Spec said there's a drag strip in Guadalajara. We can go there. Yeah, you know what? Mexican Spec, I seriously would like to do that. I got to figure out how and when I could. It's just, that'd be a tough thing for me to do logistically. Unfinished Project saw a video where the instructor shot the student. I actually know an instructor who he didn't, but one of his people that he was teaching a class with accidentally shot a student in the shoot house. I actually know that happening twice. Shoot house training is there's danger there, and it's got a protocol that's got to be followed to manage that. But I will say one thing: shoot house training, it is very good training. I recommend everybody do it, but you only want to go to schools that have really good controls on it. And you got to have a triple check going in that shoot house, and good controls followed religiously on all the students to make sure that live ammo does not get in the shoot house. So if you're going to take that kind of training, go to Tactical Response or go to TDI in Ohio. Those are two places I can recommend that do really good quality shoot house training with sim guns and have good controls. Unfinished Project said that wasn't in the shoot house. Understood. I mean, there's all kinds of craziness going on within these, but what I'm saying is the shoot house is where that's the most dangerous for sure. So I don't do sim gun training. It would be expensive. Your insurance is expensive. I would want a dedicated facility for it and all of that, so I don't do it. But I can recommend those two places to go take it. And I know that nobody here would have seen or noticed it, but I have a speck of blue paint on the mirror of the CRV where in the shoot house a round made it through the crack in a commercial door and put a speck of blue sim gun round paint on the mirror of the CRV. I just thought it was funny. It's almost all worn off now, but you can still see a little bit of it. Rob's Rod Streetcars is telling first responder Damien, map sensor fixed at Polaris. Cool. Glad you guys are collaborating. That's cool. Yeah, shoot house training is interesting. It's it can be hard on the ego, but it's good training. We'll do a live probably, since I call this the off season, the time between announcing the No Name Nationals and the wrap up. So there's this little bit of off season time when I'm not booking as many guests and such. and I'll probably will do just to do it. I'll probably pick a different day of the week too, but I'll probably do a firearm training live. Might be interesting. We'll see. Probably won't do that on the Friday though. I think it'd be fun. Shopcat says I work till near midnight, but I'm all alone in an 8-bay shop, so I can do whatever I want. Cool. Cool. Glad you can work with minimal supervision. Like watching. Yeah, well, okay. Just had the Ruger misfire unexpectedly tonight. It misfired unexpectedly? Well, that should have been a nothing. That should have been a click when you press the trigger. That's a misfire. So was it a hang fire or what was it? Yeah, I bet you could just shoot your yard there, 38 POS Racing. You're out in some country. I could shoot in my backyard once. I have a feeling that I couldn't do it more than once, but I'm sure I could do it once. First responder says Delphi makes the map to time the injectors. I do it with Holly. Hopefully they don't figure that out. Makes tuning. Yeah, I bet so. So they don't do something proprietary. Timing was off on the crank too. That'll do it. JB's asking, next step on the trash truck is a converter and some 410 gears. What do y'all think? Sounds healthy to me. Oh, so it fired when you pulled the magazine. So if your finger was not on the trigger, did you have a firing pin that was stuck and then if it slam fired when the slide went forward? Is that either that or maybe your finger was on the trigger? Sounds interesting. I saw a YouTube video of a guy talking about this. He called it monkey grip method of changing magazines in an AR. And I'm thinking, okay, is this going to be something I've never seen? No, it was just another goofy term for a tactical reload, saving the other mag. First responders shot the AK-762 at a target, hit it right between the eyes, saved the bullets and put it away. I'm good with it. Had to keep the target. Mic drop. Cool. Some of the worst shooting I've ever done was in an AK operators course here a few years back, and but that had nothing to do with shooting the rifle. That had to do with training with Sonny Pazikas. Sonny Pazikas, he's Russian. Okay, he's former Spetsnaz operator, and he makes you do stuff like. In that class, I think I did 900 and some push-ups. There were 900 that were on our tab for how many misses you get off your targets. He adds them up and he has a number. So our team beat the other team. The other team had 1,200. We had 900 push-ups to do. But then there was a bunch during the class. And his idea is he wants to tax you till you are dragging and then make you shoot. And it makes you a better operator. But his classes are tough. He weeds the people out who don't care to learn. And I have never gotten a barrel as hot as I have in his class. My gosh, I could feel the heat signature off of that thing. Yeah, man, that barrel got hot. I'll check that out on Finished Project. Hey, if you don't mind Unfinished Project, you text that to me. I'd like to see that. Could be no finger near the trigger. 38 POS Racing. Make sure you don't have any lubricant in your channel for the firing pin. Sometimes that will hydraulically make it stick forward, and then what it does is instead of the slide pushing the head stamp of the cartridge in, it'll actually have a firing pin sticking out and jam it right in the primer when the slide goes forward. This is why Glock tells you don't put oil in the firing pin chamber. And they put a hole there for water to drain out, and people who don't know better thinks it's for putting oil in. Anyway, JB says, anyone see the video of the fastest way to get kicked off a range? No, I'm sure there's 100 of those out there. Levi is carving a pumpkin tonight as I'm back in town. Shall I live stream it? Sure. Sounds fun. You know what you should do, Levi? Open a window on Tony's live, because Tony's Hot Rod Garage is going live here in 15 minutes. Get on his and open a window of carving the pumpkin. That would be cool. "38 says tear down time." Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just saying that's a common thing. The little old 25 autos and stuff were really bad for that. Yeah. So there you go, Tony. I mean, I figured you usually pin the links, so that'd be pretty cool. And then everybody can heckle Levi on the pumpkin. Go full auto, won't take a second. Yeah, you can inadvertently make stuff fire like that. I remember one time at a Glock course, there was a guy who he'd been messing around with the trigger bar in his Glock at the hotel before class the night before, and he'd get there and it would occasionally fire one round at a time, and then it would fire 2 or 3 before the trigger bar caught, and he didn't mean to, but he made a mess, and it's no problem. The cool thing about training at Glock is the warranty department is upstairs above the range. And so, you know, our instructor who'd been there for freaking ever, Chris Edwards, I don't know if he's still there or not. He's still there. I can't imagine he's not retired by now. But anyway, he just walked up to the warranty department, got what he needed. They fixed it at a break and rocking and rolling again. Yeah, Tony will be live here in just a few minutes. I'll wrap up at the regular time and encourage everybody to go over there and check out Tony's live. Wendy just got home from work. I knew you would let us know when you got in, Wendy. Wendy's here. Right on. Yeah, the weather is starting to get wonky here. I got some outdoor things I need to knock out before it gets cold, and like every year, I'm sure I will not get half of them. Just the way it is. JB says Wendell, I mean Wendy. Yep. Well, you know, 38. I mean, Wendy's a hardworking woman. She's gotta keep the lights on, and she goes and regulates and then gets in and hangs out. Tony says we've already had low 20s at night. Tony's in the part of Arizona that gets cold. So it's a big state. It's not all, you know, you like every state, it's not all uniform. Except Massachusetts. I think it's awful everywhere. Arizona is different in different parts. Bear Rose has been getting ready for old man winter again. Bear Rose, do you have seasons other than winter there? I got to tell you, the first Bear Rose video I ever saw was him working on getting a car inside in the middle of winter, an Idaho winter, a serious winter. I'm like, that guy's a warrior. He gets his stuff together and gets it done. Those deserts get real cold at night. Yep. I've been to Las Vegas when it snowed. And that was interesting. So I went to Las Vegas in I don't know, it was like 2013, 2015, somewhere right in there. And the range I went to is just outside of Pahrump. And of course, Vegas is, people generally know what that is. Well, there's a big mountain you have to go over to get there. And I think it's Red Rock Canyon you go through up this mountain, but you go way up high. Well, when I got up to the top of that mountain, there was an inch of snow up there. It's in the middle of the desert. It's like this rocky landscape, just like the Roadrunner and Coyote cartoons. And it was a desert, mountain, weird-looking landscape, and they had an inch of snow. And at the very top of that mountain, apparently there's a cop that lives up there, and he had his police car parked in the driveway. And I don't know if it was him or somebody else had written something on the windshield. I can't remember what it was. They'd written in this inch of snow, because an inch of snow is unusual there. But it was wild. You'd see snow blowing around through the palm trees and stuff. Man, I mean, I've been to that range like, I don't know, 3 times, and 2 of them, it was nasty cold. 16 degrees, wind blowing with snow blowing in the air, in the middle of the desert. Bear Rose, anyone lived in an RV in cold weather? Yeah, Bear Rose did a winter, an Idaho winter in an RV out there. He's hardcore. We had a very mild winter here last year in southwestern Virginia. I'll take it. Yeah, I'm no fan of the freezing cold. Oh my gosh. Barrow says he used to go to Meadow Lake where his sister lives now on the 4th of July to have snowball fights. You had snowball fights on the 4th of July? Are you kidding? Where is that awful place? Like, geographically, where is that located? First responder garage. Yeah, in 2023, that's not going to work. Snowball fights on the 4th of July. Oh my gosh, that sounds absolutely awful. Snowball fights on the 4th of July. Can't even imagine. I thought by 4th of July the weather was good everywhere. I mean, they even have, summer in Alaska on July 4th. It's a pretty big deal, a lot of places there, because they don't get much of a summer. Yeah, it is crazy. It's in the Sawtooth Range between me and Salmon, Idaho. Wow. That sounds like a place where it's incredibly tough to live, a place where you go if you don't want to have neighbors. There's Mean Street Mopar. What's going on, sir? Glad you could make it. Snowball fights used to be fun. Now I'm like, forget that stuff. Right on. See, I think your throwing arm is what has to do with how much you enjoy snowball fights. I do not have a good throwing arm. Well, Mean Street, we're glad you could join us. You did miss Professor P. He was earlier. And then we had Andy Wood, Unity Motorsports Garage, stop by. So you just never know who will stop in here. but we're glad you could stop in here. Tony's Hot Rod Garage says, screw snow. Yeah, I mean, would I miss it if I never had snow again? It'd probably be days when I think it'd be kind of cool. But I got to tell you, no more than I like snow, I am perfectly content to go somewhere that gets it and not have it here. Yeah, and so I'll put this up for everybody. So after this live here in just a few minutes, Tony's Hot Rock Garage will be live here in 5 minutes on his channel. Remember, he is. It's only 7 p.m. where he is, so he's got that evening shift all worked out. So that's cool. Snow is good on Christmas. Yeah, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it looks like we're wandering into the weird hour. So, what's the elevation here, Buff Del Campo? It's about 2,200 feet. Some of the areas right around here are about 3,000. If you go down into Roanoke, it's under 2,000. 38 POS Racing says, I hope you got all the Sykeston race coolant changed out on your car. That's right. Make sure you have antifreeze if you're in a climate that needs it. Thumper says winter is really mild here, only sub-zero and 150 plus inches of snow. If I could have a coma for January and February and knew everything would run fine until I woke up on 1st March, I'd be good with that. Dean Stevenson said 6,000 feet. Is that the elevation? What's at 6,000 feet, Dean? That's crazy. That's another high desert where I've been to train is Lakeview, Oregon. They're 5,400 feet up where he is, and it's the desert, and they still have snow up there because of their elevation. That is a neat town, too. I need to find pictures that I've taken of Lakeview. It's just a neat place. Danny Boyd says, isn't Roanoke where all those people disappeared? No, you're thinking of Roanoke Island, North Carolina. Not here. I'm talking Roanoke, Virginia, the Star City. It's about 30 miles east of me. .38 POS Racing changed back to antifreeze. The next day, the water pump went out. It could have been worse. Could have gone out in Sykeston. Barrows says 6,000 is what it is here in the upper Snake River Valley. My gosh. Barrows, you just like to live in a place that's extremely hard to survive because it cuts down. See, you're guaranteed to not have these just insufferable neighbors because they couldn't survive there. Cultured Redneck Garage stopped in. Hey, cool, man. Glad you could swing in. I'm looking forward to Cultured Redneck Garage making his all-out assault on making the No Name Nationals in 2024. That guy's he's got some cool stuff. He's a cool guy. He's been at 2022 and 2023, but I'm hoping he comes out see him on the track next year. And he called me a hoe, Damien. Well, that's an interesting comment, Colleen. You're not a 304. I think that's so funny, that slang you see these kids, the 304 for hoe. That's the area code of West Virginia. So just seems weird because you see these shirts back when the area code thing was this big deal. And you would see those 304 or 304 strong shirts. They've got a whole new meaning now. Usually heater hoses blow when I put in antifreeze. Yeah, well, okay. Maybe it's just testing your system. Patrick says, hello, everybody. Finally have water again. 10 hours, only an hour break. Well, right on, man. Did you have a freeze? Is that what caused that? First responders says I do have a half a gallon of water wetter. Okay. All right. Well, we're at the end of our time. I know Tony's got his live all set up. Want to thank all you guys for coming out. I appreciate it. I love spending time with you. And you guys can do anything you want to on a Friday night. And I appreciate you hanging out here. So I've got more cool stuff coming up. I should be doing some testing with Andy on Sunday. I'll get confirmation on that tomorrow. I'm sure we'll bring you some content out of that. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you guys. I'll see you next week, if not sooner. Later.